4th birthday cake. The baby in the background in the basket is Doug. Chris can't seem to be able to blow out his candles. I'm sorry, I said it was David's birthday and it's Chris's birthday on that one. And he's 3 years old. He's typical Schmidt. He's got looking for the money that Grandma gave him. We guess we never change even as we get older. We all like money, don't we? He can't seem to get out of the envelope. There it is. He's got $3 whole. Boy, what could he do with that, huh? Well, you can see Doug's hand back there, if nothing else. You figure this was Chris's birthday in February, and Doug had been born in October the year before. And this is one of the toys he got for his birthday. As you know, our kids never lacked for toys. Boy, do we remember these winners. This is Eddie shoveling, and that's David, shoveling one of the nice snowfalls in Rochester. We're not sorry that we aren't back there to have to shovel anymore like that. It just doesn't happen to that degree out here. And here's my skinny husband, George. He didn't get as fast as I did. What's fun to see too is the houses on the track, to see how small the trees were at the time. My energetic family, all shoveling away. When we watched this, there's Christopher. When we watched this the first time, it made us cold just thinking of how cold and blowing it can be back there when we're having to shovel. Out here, when it snows, we don't have the terrible driving winds, at least not on our tract. Now, out in the open fields they do, but where we live, it doesn't blow, so that the driveway is much easier to clean. And if you clean it in the morning, the sun melts the rest of it by the afternoon. I can't say the same for Rochester. I can remember our driveway being pretty snowed in quite a bit at the time. Daddy's very smart here. He keeps pulling Chris into the snowdrifts and wonders why he falls off. Oh, the water babies. How our kids did love that. This is David and Chris again. And as you can see, they're happy in their water, even though it's not very deep at that time. And there's Edward. It seems funny to see him look so much darker than the other two, but he always did have a much darker complexion than the other two kids. He takes more after his father. And later on, you can almost see the kids' lips being cold, like David right there and Chris. Their lips look as if they might be a little blue, as if they were cold. And that's the other thing about back there. Even in summertime, there weren't too many times that you were hot, like out here where if we had a pool, it would be hot most of the summer without a child getting chilled when he was in the water. That's Don and Elaine's house over there, and it really looks bare when you think of what it looks like today. We really enjoyed seeing these pictures and seeing how much the tract has changed. And we'll see some more of the houses later on as Eddie and Dave Goddard are playing baseball. There's me, and I was pregnant at the time with Doug. As you can see, I stayed out of the picture. I didn't think I was much for the photographer at that size. This water bit goes on and on, but if you remember, our kids always did like water this much, and so it's quite appropriate that our children have many pictures of them playing around in the water. I forgot how cute Chris could be as a baby. And I forgot how noisy and active David was. He got quieter as he got older, but boy, as a little kid, he really was a noisy little boy. And some of these pictures make me realize that he was. I must admit, we wouldn't mind having a pool out here right now because it does get so hot in the summer, but it is such a liability because we have attracted so many children and they wouldn't stay out of the yard. And it would be a great responsibility to have it. So we have to go without. These pictures are of a picnic we had with the Crosses and the Brunigs and us. Um, it was funny to see the Cross girls, Marianne and Nancy. And I don't know if Goddard's there too. That's our David, and that's Nancy Cross there. And that's Mary Ann behind her. And there's David and Ed. And that's the Brunig's little boy. And that was Frank Brunig cooking. It's a long time ago. And I can tell by my belly that that is me again. Now this is David's 4th birthday. Now I've got it right. This was a cake we made out of angel food cake, and then we made licorice tracks and peppermint patty wheels. But he was real thrilled with it. And I don't think any of my kids can blow out candles, as you notice. Chris couldn't, and neither can David. They need a windstorm. And there's my little left-handed boy. He's using his left hand. And I can still remember this gift. This was a tool chest we got for David with all tools in for his very own, so he could be a carpenter. This was before he had glasses too, so I think he got them the following year. And there he is trying to use his tools with Brother Christopher being a big help, actually being a pain in the neck. David doesn't want him around. When Drew saw this, he says it's hard to believe that this is the same step that he played on. He forgets that things don't change. Helpful little brothers. They just won't stay out of the way, will they? Notice the shoes on the kids. Back then we didn't use sneakers. The kids were supposed to wear good, solid shoes all the time. And so if you'll notice, all our kids, that's what they had on, was good shoes. Good leather shoes. Didn't do much for the budget, but they did hold up a little bit longer than sneakers, I will admit. David does pretty well with a hammer, even though he is left-handed. This is, first of all, it's Ed and Terry Latson. That was Howard and Dottie's little boy. And this is Dave Goddard, and poor Chris is complaining because they won't let him play. But you can see in the background some of the houses and how undeveloped it is. And this is Elaine and Dave and Mary and Diane. I forgot names even. This is little Diane when she was just a little girl. And there was David. What a hitter he is, huh? He doesn't quite make it. Of course, he probably couldn't see the ball without his glasses. Didn't have them then yet. I don't know if this was a birthday party or not when we got together for dinner. But notice the little tree, how small it is then. Drew couldn't believe that that was the same tree. This is Don. Hi, Don. If somebody saw these pictures and went down that street today, they wouldn't think they were on the same street. With all the additions that have been done and all the greenery that has grown up. Oh, we're back to the water again. This does become boring after a while, but we thought it was pretty important when we took it. There you can really see the difference in Eddie's skin from the other two. I almost think he didn't belong to us if he didn't look so much like his father. It's also interesting to see Edward's teeth. They show there already how badly they had bucked out before he had correction. Well, that was a real brave dive off into the water, wasn't it? But when you don't have anything better, thank goodness we could grow up into a bigger pool as we got more kids. Boy, Chris is a busy little boy there. But he was our one that we used to sink to the bottom of the pool when we got the big pool and just sit on the bottom to scare Mommy. This is out at Tamlin Beach Park when the Goddards and the Schmidts went out there for a picnic. That's Diane and Chris. Doesn't seem possible those kids have grown up already. Back there's Lake Ontario, and there's Ed. Notice you'd never even know that the mothers were here on this picnic. This is David and Ed. Notice the pants, how they're cut. These were not bell bottoms. These were the regular width pants that everybody wore back then. No, the boys didn't wear jeans then yet. They wore the light cotton summer pants. There's Diane and David and Chris. And there's Ed. So all the kids are on the thing together. This was a beautiful park back then. I don't know if it is nowadays or not, but boy, we sure enjoyed it back then. As you can see, there weren't a lot of people there. David didn't know how to get down the slide, I assume. Got himself all tied up at the top. There we go. Next comes David and then Ed, although he doesn't do much better than David. And then Diane. That was a little bit high for them. They were a little scared. Yeah, you're a real cutie, Diane. This is enough to make anybody sick. This is Chris again, out by the water. And I'm surprised that I left him near the edge, because normally I was always such a nervous wreck whenever anybody was near the water. This is our little wet pants kid. As you'll soon see, he apparently had wet his pants. And for some reason the slide just didn't work right. But we even get worse later on. For a while I couldn't keep Ray and Chris straight because they were dressed alike, until I realized one had blue and one had red top. Here's where we really get stuck. Those pants were so wet, and it just wouldn't go. Don Goddard is being very energetic here, raising the back roof on his house so that they can have more room for their expanding family. Drew mentioned that he didn't think we knew how to do those things, and I told him that back then we either did it ourselves or it didn't get done. And this is Chris again with his popsicle. Always the clown. Notice Mrs. Meyer's driveway isn't even paved yet when this was taken. This is a tractor that went through, I think, all the kids. I don't know if Drew had it, but all the other kids did. It was a John Deere, and boy, we paid a good penny for it, but it sure lasted. And then we didn't believe any kid should have a two-wheel bicycle too young. So, no, that's not the bike either, pardon me. We had another bigger one. But I think Chris was the one that used to drive that tractor into the cement steps, ramming it into the steps. And why it lasted, I don't know. And you see, hula hoops were the craze back then, too. That was the first time they came out. And if you notice the pants on the line, they're on one of those dryers. And this is from our garden. And there's Grandma with Douglas. I had forgotten that Doug was ever that chubby. And I think he looks like Justin here. George doesn't agree, but I think he does. Those little fat jowls. He must have been close to, well, must have been about 10 months old, 9-10 months old when these were taken. Because it was in the summer after the October of when he was born. There's Christopher. Poor kid didn't like the sun. There's the bigger bike that we got for the boys. And that was a bike, too, that really went through a number of kids before it hit the dust. Don't ask me where David's going with all this stuff. I imagine he was going to play Army someplace. What's interesting to see with these kids is that they didn't go in the street. Even when Chris rode down a while back, he was going down that hill helter-skelter, and I thought, boy, he's going out in the street. But he didn't. They had been taught. Okay, there's Diane, and there's Douglas and David. As you can see, Doug's not very happy. And this must be David's birthday again. And as you notice, he's added glasses now. And Chris is dying over there because he'd like some of the gifts, too. You'll also notice that our boys all have brush cuts. They look like boys. And that was one of their favorite things, is their guns and holsters. They didn't play Cowboys and Indians. They always played, what did they play? Army. Yeah, Army was the thing. This was out in our old garage where we only had a one car garage before they rebuilt. I don't know if any of you kids will remember that back. Maybe Ed will. Why I didn't fall with this, I'll never know. 5. 5 candles. That one I had made for him, I think. Looks like it. Looks like it's got pirates or somebody. There's Marianne and Nancy again. And Diane and Dave. You kids were all always together. I mean, this was a bunch that usually were together whenever we did anything, till the crosses moved, at least. Oh dear, Nancy. I mean, Diane's unhappy there. Somebody must have given her a seat. You can see just a dash of George's mother there for a minute. George didn't believe taking pictures of adults when he was taking the kids' pictures. Didn't believe in taking pictures when he got more kids. Ray and Drew just don't even rate with these films. We'll add a little bit of Drew later on, though. At least they can see him as a grown-up, if nothing else. Ray, you're just out of it. People will just have to take our word that you existed. This is Grandma going to California, I think. And you notice you walked out to the plains. They didn't have the walkways then either. And boy, that airport used to always be so windy when we went. That was a big thrill for the kids to watch Grandma going away on a plane. That might have been right after Dad died that spring, or that summer or fall. She went out to see Kate. And as George pointed out, these were propeller planes still. You know, we forget what we've lived through already in the course of our raising our children. And I don't know if this is when she got back, or apparently not, unless this was another time. We both have a habit of not marking films, so we don't know when they were taken. This is Lollipop Farm. Remember that, guys? When the llamas always tried to eat your clothing? That girl standing there is Betsy Garrett. That's one of your cousins. And of course, that's Chris. And I don't know if you still let your kids dress that way, but this is how you guys always lived in the summer, with just shorts and nothing else on, because it was always so sticky. I'm surprised that there's so many deer around and no llamas when they're doing this, because those llamas were always such a pain when you went out there. And there's Edward.